Hey, what's up guys, capnbozzy here, and this is Mass Effect 3 Multiplayer and 7 Academy Part 17. And in this episode, we'll be covering the Vorcha Sentinel, so let's check out his powers. So, what sets the Vorchas apart from mainly all the other kits in the game is that they have Bloodlust. And what Bloodlust allows you to do, so just take a look at it here, is it allows you to basically activate this power, and every time you get a kill, it intensifies these effects, and it can stack up to 3 times. So when you activate Bloodlust, the Vorcha, does like a little scream that flies him into a frenzy, and this increases his movement speed, his health regeneration, and melee damage. So mainly what I want to focus on here is his health regeneration, because I'm going to specifically spec this particular build for health regeneration rather than melee damage. So the trade-off here is, since you have this health regeneration then that can stack, you have a really small shield. So you can see here that he only has 325 shield. That is extremely small, and especially if you're playing on gold or platinum, it's basically non-existent. You can basically get hit by any enemy and it will break your shield. So you really are not going to want to put anything else into your shield. You're just going to be using your health as your shield, and it's just going to you take advantage of Bloodlust and that health regeneration effect to keep you alive. So the Vorcha also has a really good dodge, which of course I'll demonstrate once we get into the game. So that helps you stay alive as well. But really what it comes down to is just using Bloodlust, and of course using Flamer here to keep enemies at bay, to keep your DPS high, so that you just have a high offense, keeping everything from getting close enough to you to be able to take you down. So here's how I spec Bloodlust. So on rank 4 here, of course, you can go with either melee damage or health regeneration. Like I said, with this particular build, I'm going to be speccing it for health regeneration. So with every time this stacks, it's going to increase the health regeneration of each stack by 50%. All right, and then for rank 5, I'm going to also go with power damage. So like I said, we're going to be using Flamer with this particular build, and Flamer is going to be the main source of the main offense for this particular kit. And I'm going to be using a Rieger with him as well, and that will of course help to kill mooks, as well as be able to take down shields and barriers very quickly. But mainly it's going to be all about just using Bloodlust to stay alive, and using Flamer just to keep enemies at bay, and priming and detonating explosions with that. Okay, so I'm going with power damage here over weapon damage. And then lastly, once again for rank 6, I'm going to go with more health regeneration, just to take full advantage of Bloodlust and its ability to regenerate health. So that over movement speed and melee damage. The Vorchas move relatively fast. I mean, they're definitely not as quick as a lot of the other fastest kits in the game, but like I said, they have a good dodge, so it's not really too much of a problem. And if you really wanted to increase that even more, you could go with an adrenaline mod to give you some more run speed, which is definitely a good idea. And I'll go over those options once we get to the gear. Okay, so then for Flamer here, for rank 4, you have damage and reach. I personally go with reach here because obviously you want to have as much range as possible with your Flamers, so that you can hit enemies from pretty far away and be able to prime enemies for fire explosions. And for rank 5, we have damage versus duration. If you don't spec it for duration, I mean, you already have 5 seconds that the Flamer is going to be activated. That's plenty of time in my opinion, so I definitely suggest going with damage. And then lastly here, you have armor damage versus shield damage. Since you're going to be using, I'm going to be using the Rieger Carbine in this build. I go with armor damage simply because I'm going to be using the Rieger specifically to be stripping shields and barriers. So that's really what the Rieger's job is going to be. Thus, I see speccing it for armor damage, it makes a lot more sense. Just to keep the build fully synergized with everything that we're going to be using. All right, and then for a cluster grenade here, So cluster grenade, in my opinion, of all the grenades in the game, it's decent. The problem with it, though, is that it can be hard to aim. So once I get into the game, I'll show you, of course, the best way to aim it. Sometimes, you can throw it and you'll miss completely and totally waste your grenades. You definitely want to make sure not to do that, and that's why I have this spec for impact radius, so that in case you have a bad throw, you can still get, have as much chance as possible of still landing with at least some of the grenades in the cluster. And that's versus force and damage. If you feel like, you have a really good ability to be accurate with your throws with the cluster grenade, you could certainly go with damage and force instead. This is really, you could go either way depending on your playstyle. All right, and then for rank 5, we have max grenades versus damage combo. I personally think that increasing damage to already lifted targets is not really that important, because basically, once you hit them with the cluster grenade, they're probably going to die very quickly anyway, if not immediately. So I don't really see a point in using damage combo. I would say go with the capacity here. And then lastly, for rank 6, you have shrapnel versus force and damage. Once again, this kind of goes back into the radius versus force and damage here. You can go with either one. This is actually an old build that I spec'd that I just decided to keep. If I respec this, I would probably go with force and damage here instead over shrapnel. But like I said, it really doesn't matter too much. I think that cluster grenades, even when they're not fully upgraded for force and damage, do plenty of damage and everything anyway. And the way that you're going to be using them, either on mobs and mooks, which will send them flying anyway, and do what it will do the job. It will neutralize them. And then on bosses, you're going to be using that to detonate. After you hit them with the flamer and they're primed for a fire explosion. So you're going to be using the cluster grenade to detonate that fire explosion. So in my opinion, it's definitely not a bad idea to have the extra shrapnel count, which will, of course, throw out more grenades out there, so that it'll give you a higher chance of landing them if you have a bad throw. And also, if you have more grenades in there, they can do more damage per grenade if you're able to land all of them. Then I think if you have less and just have the increased force and damage. Don't quote me on that. I just think that from my experience, the shrapnel works just fine. But like I said, it's pretty interchangeable here, and do what works for you. Okay, so then moving on to Vorcha Resilience. For rank 4, we have weapon damage versus damage and capacity. Like I said, this really is going to be all about using the flamer. So that's where I really want the increased power damage. For the flamer to be as effective as possible at taking down mobs of enemies. So of course, this will also give me the weight capacity bonus to keep my cooldown for flamer as low as possible. And then for rank 5, we have power damage versus headshot damage. I'm going to be using what's it called? Let me just show you really quick. On my equipment, I'm going to be using the targeting VI here, which is as you can see, for headshot damage already. So I'm going to be using that on my Rieger. So in my opinion, I don't really need any more headshot damage. I think that will be just fine. So in my opinion here, we just have extra power damage and force, and that's really, once again, just for the flamer. And of course, I have these not spec'd if you want to spec this differently. And basically, if you wanted to not use fitness, which is not a bad idea, since you have the regenerating health and the shields are basically nothing anyway, you could just remove these and use this instead. And of course, that will give you some either reduced weight of your shotgun if you're using a Rieger, or if you want some more weapon damage, then that will work as well. And then of course, if you have it spec this way, then you can just go with the first 3 on fitness, and that's not a bad idea to give you just some more melee damage and a little bit more health and shield bonuses, and just, of course, in the first one there, a little bit more there as well. And of course, if you wanted to spec this a little bit differently, maybe if you wanted to go more with a melee kit type of style, of course you have your melee damage here. I melee a good bit, but it's really not enough. This isn't a melee specific build, that's why I don't really care too much about it. I do it when it's necessary, you know, if I'm in between cooldowns or whatever. But really, this is not going to be something I'm going to be meleeing with at all too much. I'm not going to go out of my way to do it. So yeah, you know, you could also go with a melee build, going with more melee here and here, and you're just increasing your melee damage with this, and even with more melee synergy there as well. That's what I suggest doing. I really don't suggest going with more health and shields because, like I said, I mean, this is really more about shields. Your shields are going to be really small no matter what you do. I mean, sure, you know, you can throw in a Psychotic mod. You can, use more equipment here. We'll move on here to your equipment. You can throw in a Psychotic modulator here instead. Here, and you could also go with something like, shield booster here if you really wanted to go, make him more tanky. But in my opinion, once again, I'll show you in the game, it's not really necessary with the regenerating health, from Bloodlust. So, as for your equipment goes, I would say go with anything that is tech based. So you could certainly go with incendiary rounds, disruptor rounds, or cryo rounds. I wouldn't really suggest going with incendiary because it'll be a waste since you're going to be using flamer on everything anyway. So I don't really see a point in that. So I would really suggest going with disruptor or cryo. And then for your weapon bonus here, of course, if you're using a shotgun, obviously you want to go with either shotgun rail amp or the targeting VI. There are certainly other things you can use other than the Rigor in this. That's just really what I recommend. In order to be able to strip shields quickly. You could also use something like the Acolyte instead if you wanted to have, a much faster cooldown speed and the ability to strip shields. That's not a bad idea. You could also go with something like an SMG. So, of course, depending on what you've got, pick accordingly. And also, if you wanted to spec this kit to be more of a melee kit, you could also go with Strength Enhancer instead. And then for armor bonus here, as I mentioned earlier, if you wanted some increased run speed, you could certainly go with Adrenaline module. That's definitely not a bad idea. I'm personally going to go with Power Amp just to go, more in line with my particular strategy for this build, is just to go all into basically using the Flamer as much as possible, making it as powerful as possible to just use on enemies, and then use the cluster grenade to detonate those fire explosions. Okay. And then lastly here, if you have grenade capacity, I suggest going with that so that you can have obviously as many cluster grenades to throw as possible. Another possibility is, something like Get Scanner if you wanted to just, be able to tell where all the enemies are so that when you are using Flamer, you can, not get snuck up on, and just know exactly when you're turning around corners where to aim it. That's definitely not a bad idea as Get Scanner. You could also certainly use something like Berserker package here for shotgun damage and melee damage. That's definitely pretty good ideas. I'll be using this is definitely something I would also use instead. I really use either of these interchangeably. But like I said, I like having as many grenades as possible. That's why I'm going with that. Normally, if I didn't have grenades with this particular kit, I would definitely go with Berserker package for this. So that's also if you're going for like a melee build, and of course, if you want to go with the melee build even more, you can go with something like Hydraulic Joints. And like I said, if you wanted to go a different route with this altogether, you could certainly try to boost your shields more and go with a much more tankier build and play him much more like, I guess, a Geth Trooper with his with the Flamer, and be able to have those shields boosted so that you can just kind of be a like a soldier, just being able to stand your ground and take as much damage as possible, and just be able to use your Flamer to just take down mobs and enemies. Alright, so that's the build there, so let's hop into a game, and I'll show you how I play with them.
Strategically sensitive location identified. We got multiple enemies spotted. Secure the area. I hear you!
Okay, so what I use for my keybinds in the top left there, for Bloodlust I use middle mouse or 3, for Flamer I use X, and for the cluster grenade I use F. So like I said, it's all about using Bloodlust here, so I'm going to turn that on, and you can see he does like his little scream there, and then he's, you know, pulsing with that like red energy through him, and that means Bloodlust is activated. So every time I get a kill, you'll see that it will stack, and he'll do stack and, you know, be able to restore his health. So like I said, you just want to be, you know, using Flamer as much as possible to cover ground and be able to take out mobs of enemies. So you can see there, I just got barely hit by the Marauder and it took down my shield. And but with Bloodlust though, you can see how fast the health regenerates. So, you know, just to keep your Bloodlust stacking, you just want to keep killing as much as possible. So you can see how fast that recharges. It really is fast. And once I get to some heavier duty enemies, I'll show you using the cluster grenade as well. It's just right now it's not really necessary. It looks like we got one more somewhere.
Mission accomplished.
Oh, okay.
Enemy is still active. Stay alert. Bogeys incoming.
So once again, just to keep your Bloodlust going, okay, I'm gonna use this cluster grenade now. Bam, you can see that fire explosion. So remember, you want to use right hand advantage to be able to just, you know, keep yourself covered, but also be able to shoot at the same time. And there you go. There's another stack right there. And you can see it, just how powerful that is with all those cluster grenades hitting him. And so what I was talking about before with being able to aim cluster grenades correctly, you really want to just, obviously with other grenades, you know, just manage the trajectory. You want to usually throw it at their feet and just make sure that it bounces right in the right place. So, you know, right here, I want to be able to bounce it right where it's going to land on them, so that obviously it doesn't miss them, it doesn't go through them. So what I want to do here, if I want to hit this brute, so I'm going to flame him a bit here, and then I want to bounce this once he comes around here. I want to bounce this like right in front of my feet, so that it will bounce and then land right in front of him and have the maximum impact, hitting him with all those clusters. So here we go. He'll be a straight shot. I can show you. So hitting him with that, and then I want to bounce this just right in front, so that it bounces up and hits him right in the face there. You can see just how powerful that is. So really with cluster grenades, like I said, I mean, they can be a little difficult sometimes, depending on your distance and how much you've used them to be able to, you know, get accurate hits with them. But when you do, they really are powerful, really good grenades. And there's the dodge there. Like I said, he does have a really good dodge. Helps you to be able to, you know, get out of the way very quickly and in difficult situations. Of course, you can, you know, he's got that kind of like little flip around in the front and a little, you know, kind of hop step forward. So that wasn't even a great throw. That actually missed, I think, a couple of the clusters there. Or a couple of the grenades in the cluster there. So you can see with the flamer just how powerful it is. I mean, obviously these are just mooks right now, and this is also gold. So obviously you have to take it into consideration if you're playing on platinum. You won't be quite as effective as this. You'll still be doing a lot of damage, but obviously on gold it's a lot different story than on platinum. But still though, it's very effective using this. You have, you know, Bloodlust gives you some really good recharge speed with your health. Alright, so here on this Banshee, when she's far away, I'm going to use this on her just to help take down what I can. But really, once she gets close, I want to be able to use the my Rieger here just to take down her barrier. And then I'm going to use Flamer just to strip down her her armor. As well as the Rieger, of course, just in conjunction as it's reloading. And you can see how fast she goes down. Pretty simple. This may be a little bit difficult. Alright, so I got plenty of time here. Need to cut them around a bit. I may have to use this missile. That's not an easy one for a solo. Don't you love it when they give me really hard ones? And I'm trying to do this damn video. Alright, well I got through it. You just gotta remember when you're soloing, as I always say, you just can't panic. Feel free to wait, you got plenty of time usually. The rest of these shouldn't be a problem. That was just a really bad area, bad spawn for the enemies as well. See if I can get all of them in one shot here. Coming down to the wire.
Only a couple of seconds left. Get it done. Fine, target's neutralized. Nice job.
Woo! Close one there. Alright, so once I finish the rest of this round, we'll close this out. Pretty sure I covered everything. I think it's pretty straightforward. Of course, like I said, you just want to use Bloodlust, and of course that will keep your health regenerating. And then you want to use your Flamer just to, keep everything, get everything on fire, and you can prime and detonate with that, depending on, what your teammates are using. And see, there you go, there's a bad throw right there. Went straight through everything. I think she's gonna go right through the wall. Yep. Wow, and even with you can see even with that Banshee ball there, my health still regenerated. So we got one left here. All right.
Enemy is still active. Stay alert.
Okay, well that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks a lot for watching. And in the next one, we're going to cover the Krogan Warlord Sentinel. So it should be an interesting one. All right, I'll see you next time. capnbozzy out.